Hello, through this video, I hope to help you understand the concept of coding your interview transcripts. Once you've conducted and transcribed your interviews, the next step is to organize and process your data. Coding makes this process much more manageable, offering significant insights from your research and helping you create the broader storyline you want to share. Take a look at the following 10 words. Now with pencil and paper, make some small groups containing these items. Now you don't have to use all of the words, but each group of items will have some sort of common characteristics that you create. You can use these words more than once in different groups if they hold some common characteristic with the other items. So at this time, pause the video and complete the task. Now identify the characteristic of each group of items. Some answers that you have written down could be items made of metal or office items, or items that are flat, or items that are red in color, or that stick up out of the ground, or any number of other groupings. Were any of your answers incorrect? Of course not. Now consider this. You are tasked with completing a jigsaw puzzle. What is your strategy? Do you separate out the edge pieces? Do you put pieces of the same colors together, such as all the purples and all the reds? Do you make subgroups of the colors, such as the purples that also have green or the purples that also have yellow? Do you then subgroup those pieces into those that look like parts of a flower or look like parts of a building? If someone else was going to work on the same puzzle, would he necessarily use the same strategy? Would that make his strategy wrong? Of course not. That's how coding works. Coding is a system to organize your data. In essence, it's a personal filing system, and the way I code the data will be different than yours. So let's take a look at 6 steps for coding your transcripts. Step 1, of course, is obvious. Read the transcripts. But the first time you read them, quickly browse through those transcripts. Make notes about your first impressions as you read. And then go back and read each transcript again, this time very carefully. Step 2, label the relevant pieces. Label the relevant words, phrases, sentences, or sections that you read. Now those labels can be about actions, or activities, concepts, differences, opinions, processes, or whatever you think is relevant. You might decide something is relevant because it has been repeated, or it surprises you, or the interviewee states that it is important. It's your study and your choice of methodology. You are the interpreter and you decide what is important. But as you do so, it's very important that you be unbiased and stay close to the data. Here's an example of labeling relevant pieces. In step 3, decide which codes are the most important and create categories by bringing several codes together. So first, go through all the codes that you created in step 2. Create new codes by combining 2 or more codes that you already wrote. Drop previous codes that you deem to be unimportant. Keep the codes you think are important and group them together in the way that you want. And after doing so, create categories. Here's an example of taking the labels and creating categories. Your work is now on a more general, abstract level. You're conceptualizing your data. It's important to note that as your data are coded, the coding scheme will be refined. That means that you will add, collapse, expand, and revise the coding categories. Some codes simply do not work or conflate other ideas from different codes. Or sometimes codes flourish in a way that there's too much data. In this case, the code needs to be broken down into subcodes in order to better organize the data. Remember the puzzle example? In step 4, label the categories that you just created and decide which are the most relevant and how they are connected to each other. Describe the connections between the categories. These categories and connections are the main result of your study. Here's an example of labeling the categories. Some other options that you might consider is to decide if there's an hierarchy among the categories, or decide if one category is more important than the other. This helps you organize your writing, because now step 6 is when you write up your results. In chapter 4, describe the categories and how they are connected. But be very careful here that you use a neutral voice and do not interpret your results in chapter 4. But in chapter 5, write out your interpretations and discuss your results. Interpret those results in the light of results from similar or previous studies, in light of theories or concepts from your field of expertise, or in light of other relevant aspects. In other words, as part of the process of coding, it is important to jot down notes of your reactions and ideas that emerge. These ideas are important and vital to the analytic process. These notes may suggest new interpretations as well as connections with other data. So finally, the rule of thumb for coding is to make the codes fit the data rather than trying to make your data fit the codes.